Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is a crochet tutorial. I had a request from Karen Nelson asking about making a crochet pot holder. So I did a little research and I thought, okay, if it's going to be a pot holder, it needs to be able to be thick enough to not burn yourself when you are getting something out of the oven, obviously, or taking a lid off of a pot on the stove, etc. So I actually looked into some different stitches and I found one called the thermal stitch. So if you guys are, experienced crocheters and you know this stitch, then I think that's a great stitch to use. For some reason, I could not wrap my brain around the thermal stitch. I just couldn't. I tried for days. I watched several videos. I looked at blogs. I looked at patterns. And then I finally said, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing. So, and then I thought, why not keep it simple anyway? Because the dishcloth tutorial that I have, it's just a single crochet stitch, right? And which is a simple basic stitch. So if you're a beginner, this is even better because it just uses the single stitch, the single crochet. And you're basically just making it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to show you how to stitch it together on the edges to make just a nice, very simple, very easy, seamless pattern. It has a little hook. So if you want to hook it on your wall, I'll show you where mine is. And I'll just hook it there with my pot holder. Super simple, but nice and thick, nice big size. And it's a flexible stitch, so I think it's nice. You can actually pick things up with it. If I can pick something up with it, I have my scissors. So easy to pick up, right? Which is also good. My thing is mainly making sure that it is big enough that your fingers are going to be covered, right? Like nobody wants to be burned. I've done that. It was not good times. Do not recommend. All right, so let's get into it. So this is the first side that I have finished. So single crochet, just like the washcloth, or the dishcloth rather, but again, like this is a nice size for my hand. You can always make it a little smaller or a little larger if you have larger or smaller hands, but to me, I feel like this is a good size to be able to actually scoop something up with, either a lid or something out of the oven safely without getting my fingers in the way. So I'm going to tie this one off and then we will get started. I'm just going to pull that through, pull a knot in it, and then we're going to get started on side 2. Both sides are going to be done exactly the same. I just did 31 stitches across and 31 rows up. So we have a nice square. So usually for the dishcloths, I think in my other video, which I will link above, I did either 20 or 25. I do like my dishcloths to be a little smaller, but again, I want to make sure that my hand is covered and I'm not going to hurt myself. So let's get right into this. I'm going to start. I still have a good bit of yarn left over from the first roll, but I wanted to start with a fresh roll to show you guys, to give you an idea about how far one of these will go. Definitely you're going to need 2 for this because you're using more yarn than if you were just doing obviously one side or dishcloth. So this is a 4 weight. It calls for a 5mm hook, which I have right here, little boy hook. And it is 100% cotton. It's the Sugar and Cream. This is the one I tend to go to when I do these projects because it's readily available at all the stores close by. If you guys have suggestions for other brands that are 100% cotton as well, leave those down in the comments below. But definitely you want to use 100% cotton for this. You're talking about using something for heat. I use 100% cotton even for my dishcloths or if you're making washcloths because it's easy to wash. It's easy to throw into the washer and dryer and to clean as well. Very durable. But you don't want anything with like a polyester in it or any acrylic in it because you're dealing with heat and those kind of things can melt in direct heat. So let's definitely not do that. All right, so let's get into it. So we're doing very basic single crochet. I'm going to start out taking that's a really big hair right there. Excuse me, I'm shedding. So we're going to just take our yarn, pull it over our pointer finger, pull it around one time, kind of grab hold of it, loosen that front loop, hook under, pull that other loop underneath, and boom. This is how I like to start all of my chains. So to make a chain, I'm going to loosen a little bit. Oh, that's my cat, sorry. If you haven't met Hazel yet, that's Hazel causing shenanigans. Shaking my table. Okay, I had to wait for her to jump down. So to do a chain, if you're brand new, you're going to hold your yarn just like this. You're going to take your hook, pull your yarn, kind of twist it just a little bit, and pull it through the loop you just made. That is a chain 1. Okay, this, when we twist the yarn around the hook, we call it a yarn over, and that's our next chain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you just keep going until you have your chain of 30 or your preferred size. Now I have my chain of 30. I'm going to add one more, simply because we're going to, like, this little chain here doesn't really count for anything. When we start working, it's going to be in that chain. So that's 31. This is 30. So when you start working in that one, it actually gives you your whole 30 chains. Okay. Just to make sure, I am going to take my other and make sure we have the same width. And we do, just to make sure I didn't miscount or forget my count, because that very well could happen sometimes. All right. And if you are new to crochet, the main thing is you want to make sure you're not holding your yarn too, well, I guess it's not the main thing, but one main thing is you want to make sure you're not holding your yarn too tight or too loose, because if you get it too tight up against that hook, it's going to be really difficult to work with. You're going to be fighting against it. If it's too loose, you're going to have wonky bits. So just practice. If you get frustrated at first, just realize you can always unravel and start over. It is okay. All right. So we're just going to single crochet all the way down. Single crochet is a very easy, basic first crochet stitch to learn. So you're basically taking your hook, going into your chain, first chain from the hook, yarn over your yarn, bring it up. You have 2 loops. You're going to yarn over again and pull it through. Boom. So now we're going to go into our next chain right there. Yarn over. You have 2 loops. Yarn over, pull it through. Okay, and we're just, there's nothing complicated here. We're just going to go all the way down the row, just like that. And you can see where it's starting to shape. So through the chain, yarn over to pull it through the chain, yarn over to pull it through those 2 loops. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer. Through the chain, and then yarn over to pull through. So we're just going to do that all the way down. Don't worry about trying to go quickly when you're first starting out. Don't worry about trying to go quickly if you've been at this for a while. It's not about the speed of doing it, right? I realized as I was working on this this week, even the researching part of things, I've kind of gotten back into that place of trying to hurry through stuff too much. So I think crochet, fabric work, yarn work, textile things, if you will, are an excellent way to find something to do that requires time and focus and concentration, but can also be relaxing at the same time. So once you get your groove with this, it's really easy to kind of find a meditative place, or even for me with the ADHD, even sitting watching TV and doing this can be relaxing, because I like to have something to kind of do or fidget with. And so this is kind of a nice way to be able to watch a show, kind of do something that doesn't require an intense amount of concentration. And yeah, it's a win-win on all points. So I'm gonna go all the way down the row, and then I'll show you how we turn. So we're on our last little stitch here. We're going to go in, yarn over, do our last single crochet, boom, just like that. And this is just the habit that I have. I've realized a lot of people will then turn their work at this point and do their chain one. It's totally fine. Either way it gets done, right? I have just always been in a habit, I think, because this is how I've seen the women in my family do it initially. I will chain one, which just means I'm going to add an extra chain right here and then turn my work. Okay, so we have this lovely, pretty little starter chain. More than one way to do things, for sure. All right, and now we're going to just do the same thing back across. So now you have this lovely chain here, right? We're just going to go into that space, yarn over, and create our chain, going all the way back down, our next stitch rather. So through all of those loops, we're just going to go all the way down. So right here, pull through, and you have your stitches. So that is basically what we're doing for this, just like the dishcloth video, but a bit thicker, right? And going all the way down the row. Now, one thing to remember, especially I'm noticing, sometimes I think it depends on the color too, but you'll see here, you want to go through, let me show you from the top. You see that little V shape that's happening right there? You want to go through that whole V shape when you're making your chain. If you go through the center, we call that front loop only, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are some stitches that require that, but for this purpose, we're going through both loops, because if you go just through that front loop, right, you see kind of the difference there? It creates a bigger space. It just creates a different pattern. So you definitely want to make sure you have both of those loops in there if this is something that is new for you, if you're a beginner. So again, just through both of those loops. If you're looking at it from the top, you're going through both of those loops, that V shape. You're pulling your yarn over and kind of creating your next V shape for the next row. So again, all the way down. And then once you reach the end of this row, you're going to do your chain one and turn. And then you're going to keep going and keep creating rows until you have 30 rows going upward. I think I may have said 31 a minute ago. Basically, you're creating a square. So we're skipping that last. So you have 30 stitches this way, and then you're going to create 30 rows, because that is what is going to give you a square shape. Once we have the other square, I'm going to show you guys how to connect it and how to create a cute little loop, so that once your pot holder is done, you can hang it in your kitchen. If you hang them in your kitchen, I have my oven mitts hanging in the kitchen. I'll have to try to remember to share them with you guys, because they're kind of cute. So I'll try to think about that when we wrap everything up. So I'm going to keep working on this. And once I have this second square finished, I will meet you guys back and we will put her together. All right, my friends, so we are back. I have both, let's see, I'm noodled up, both finished squares. So this is the one I did initially, and I didn't tuck these in just yet. I feel like we can do that at the end. I'll show you how to do that in case you're not familiar with how to hide those little tails. Here's my second one. Now, I did not cut this length off, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to actually give that a little room, and we're going to line these up. We're going to use this and kind of continue on to sort of crochet these together or sew them together. So you're just going to decide which way you want your patterns to lay, or if you have a solid color, or if you're like me and you're like they're kind of random and variegated, and it's fine. We're going to put those on top of each other, line them up, right? Just like that, line the edges up. And then I'm going to pick up my yarn. And I am just going to crochet these together. I think this is just kind of a simple way to do it. You could tie this off as well and then take a larger needle, you know, take your yarn and sort of sew it together. I just kind of like the idea of doing this. So let's do this and play and see how it turns out. Kind of, I feel like it'll give it a nice little finished edge as well. So on this one, I just finished it and did my single, or rather did my chain one and turned it around. Okay. So we're going to pick this up and we're just going to single crochet between the two spaces. All right. So I'm going to get my little tail out of the way. I'm going to get this, pick up my yarn, and I'm just going to go through my, oh, that's very blurry. Sorry. Very close. I'm going to go through my first stitch on this side, carry it over to the first stitch on the other side, yarn over, pull it through, and pull that through just to create that single crochet. I'm going to do the same thing on the very next one. So the next stitch and the next stitch on the other side. So making sure, it gets blurry when I try to hold it close for you to see. So making sure I'm not skipping any stitches on either piece. They're just straight across from each other like a little ladder. Yarn over and pull it through. So through the next stitch and the next one, and yarn over and pull it through. And I'm going to do that all the way down the row, and then I'm going to turn it to go on all of the edges that way. So this might not be a super speedy process. There we go. I think once you kind of get into the flow of it, it'll speed up. But again, why am I so worried about the speeding up of it? I think it's just been a busy couple of weeks for me. I've had a few different projects happening at the same time, and it's close to the end of the school year. So I think I'm just starting to feel that, I guess that kind of that sense of finishing things and time pressure on different things. So maybe that's why. Okay. Not that any of this even really took that long. Really, this is a project depending on your level and how long you've been crocheting, etc. You could probably do in a couple hours. Okay, let me make sure I'm going through the other side. There we go. All right, and now here, it's one more note I wanted to share. Again, you want to be really cautious that you're not pulling this super tight and close, right? Like you're not trying to get it super tight and pulled through there, because that's going to create stress. It's going to create tension on your work, and it's going to make it more difficult to get through. So right here is a good place to kind of practice just being a little bit loosey-goosey, right? Just kind of relax it so that you have plenty of room to pull that yarn through and not be stressed out, not create problems for yourself. All right, so you can kind of see at this point already where it's tying it together and it's creating just a nice little finished border. So I'm going to get to the end of this and then just show you how we carry on at the corners. So I've just about finished this first side. You can see how it's, oh, I'm sorry, wobbles. You can see it's nicely sealed together there, and our edges, all of our edges are lining up as well. So if, like me, you're trying to do this in something else and it seems a little off, or if you get something where it feels like one side is suddenly shorter than the other side, or it's bunching up weird, it is perfectly okay to take that back out and line your little seams up again, your stitches up again. Because for me, sometimes when I am trying to talk and make sure that everything's in the camera, etc., it's really easy to skip a stitch, especially because it gets a little blurry where the stitches are when you're trying to do both of them together like that. Plus the fabric, the yarn will kind of move around and it'll want to scooch around on you a little bit. So just be aware of that. So if it doesn't line up, don't stress out. Even though on videos it looks like it all just goes easily and seamlessly, I'm here to tell you it does not. All right, so on that note, we're in the very last stitch right here on the corner. Same thing, I'm gonna pull my single crochet through just like that, and I'm going to chain one. So as you see, this side looks a little different because these are our edges right here that don't look as nice and tidy as our little V shapes on the other ends. It is okay. We are not going to stress out about that. We are just going to do our best. We're going to go through that first space that we see right there, okay? And we're going to go straight through to the other side. So what you're doing here, because I find, I don't know if it's just how my brain works or what, but I find when I'm doing this, even if I'm finishing a dishcloth or something, these are where our rows end, right? And so it can be really easy to kind of get noodled up with where to go through. What you're doing is we're just going to single crochet through both of those and up, and we're going to find the next space that makes sense that goes through. Okay, so that was my cat, if you heard that. She's got a little box up here she's jumping around in. Okay, so we're just going to find each space and make sure it lines up with the space on the other side. The idea, again, is to just make sure everybody stays lined up, because you see how it wants to wiggle around and move around. We're going to make sure everything stays lined up. We're going to go all the way down the row in each space, just like that. And this, I kind of feel like you just have to, don't stress about it too much. Just let the hook guide you, for lack of better thought process. But even here, like you can see, that's lined up perfectly with the other side. You see the little space there? We're just going to go through the spaces. If you feel like you've hit a space where your hook is stuck and it doesn't want to go through and it doesn't feel right, don't force it. Rather, maybe it could be that the other side is wiggling a little bit or something. Rather, take a moment, lay it down, make sure everything's still lined up, and then try again. So this is more kind of a matter of feeling your way through it, whereas I think on these sides, the side we just did and the one we're working up to, I think it's more visual, and you have to kind of look for those V's. Otherwise, it does want to scoot around and it's really easy to miss a stitch and have to go back. So this, I think, it's just kind of more like it sticks together well. I feel like the edges stick together well. Don't overthink it. This single crochet going down the line here is going to give it a nice, tidy, clean finish. You see how nice that looks now? So I'm going to go down to this end and we'll turn again and move on. So here we are at the end of this row. I've got my little tail here from before. I think you could just tuck it underneath if you wanted to and work that in there. I'm going to leave it on the outside and just sew it in later. I think that's totally up to you. I don't see that this would unravel. I don't know. I'm a Virgo. I'm just kind of particular about these things. I'm going to make sure nothing unravels anywhere. So here we are. I'm going to go into that last space on that row, single crochet. I just had a thought. Never mind. A moment of a thought. Okay, and then chain one. So I'm going to move this out of my way back here. Just let it kind of hang out back here. All right, and now same thing we did before. I'm just going to find my space right there and boom. And now I'm going to look at my stitches again. I'm going to make sure my little V-shaped stitches are lined up with each other from one side to the next. Right? I always feel like the first stitch on the row is always the trickiest. So my little V shape and my little V shape. And then we're just going to rock and roll down that row. You see right through those 2 stitches, single crochet, boom. And then it might be easier if you are struggling, just kind of move everything out of the way, especially if you have like kind of this variegated yarn. I feel like solid color yarn is probably easier to see on, and then you make sure, so straight across like a little ladder. I guess I could have chosen a solid color yarn, but when I saw this, I thought, oh, my kitchen is colorful, so that'll be pretty. So, you know, we can make it work. We'll make it work. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish these edges, these 2 right here, and then I'll show you how we'll add our little loop to hang it up with. All right, so I am here at the end. I've done the other 2 sides. I'm going to go into this last space with my single crochet, just like that. Okay, and now I am going to create my little loop. We're just going to keep it very, very simple. We're not going to be too fancy about this, okay? And I'm going to chain 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And these you might want to keep a little tighter, a little closer together so they don't come undone. All right, and I'm gonna, let's see, we're gonna attach it over here just to keep it simple. I'm gonna keep this on my hook and pretend like that little tail isn't there. And I am just going to go into this stitch right here, and I'm going to pull through as though I'm doing another single crochet. Okay, but we're going to do a slip stitch instead. So that means instead of doing the rest of my single crochet, what I just picked up, I'm going to slide through this loop right here. So let me show you again. So slip stitch, this little guy is driving me crazy. So we're just going to go in right here with everything, yarn over, okay, and instead of pulling that yarn over again, we're just going to pull the yarn we pulled over through the loop we already have. So that is the slip stitch, okay? So now I can just continue to pull that yarn through, grab my scissors, make sure I'm cutting on the right side. That would be bananas if I didn't. Okay, so now tighten that up a little bit, and you've got just a little loop to hang it from. Not super fancy. I think you can make them fancier if you want to, but that's just in case you have a little hook to hook it onto your wall to keep it out of the way. Now, to get these little tails secured and out of the way, especially this one, because we don't want it to fall apart, right? We are going to get a needle. Doesn't have to be a super sharp pointy needle. Oh goodness, are you gonna be... This can never quite work right when I'm on camera. Like I always have trouble threading the needle when the pressure's on, man. Okay, let's see. I probably have a needle with a wider eye as well, but they are kind of a mess. So let me get that threaded and see if I can make it work. Oh, I might have to pause you guys. I'm gonna pause you guys so you don't have to watch me struggle. Okay, I was actually able to find a needle with a wider eye. That was painful. Okay, so got it threaded. I had to cut it down a few times because it was being stubborn. These things happen. Again, camera magic, right? It's not always as magical as we make it seem. So the idea is to just weave this in through some of our yarn, through some of our stitches, to make sure it's not going to unravel. So just kind of weaving it through, you know, a few places. I like to zigzag just because it keeps life interesting and it makes me feel like it's going to be more secure that way. I don't know. A lot of what I know and what I do, you guys, is legitimately just me playing and figuring it out. So this has gotten short, so I'm just going to pull it through to the other side. So it's kind of, you know, a lot of it is just me, again, just playing around, figuring it out as I go, and if it works, it works. So if anyone's watching who has some sort of formal training, etc., I'm sure you probably cringe at what I do sometimes. But you know, it comes down to, I feel like everyone should feel comfortable doing creative things, and if I can be a goofball and do these things and make them work, then other people should be able to feel like they can too. The arts and crafts should not be exclusive. All right, and then we'll pull that through. So I am just going to do that with all of my little tails. Just kind of pull it through to the other side, and then as it wiggles and moves, kind of readjusts. I'm going to do that with all of those, but you guys can see, oh, I just dropped my needle in my bin. It works really nicely. It's nice, clean edges all the way around. It's a nice big size. The other thing I like about the thought of this, let's see if I can move you away a bit. Ooh, that worked. So the other thing I like about this, again, nice big size. I feel like I can actually pick something up with it without burning my hands. And this is a flexible stitch. I feel like some of the other stitches I was playing with the idea of doing this would be really inflexible, I guess. And I want to know that I can pick something up and have a little sense of that control over what I'm doing. So I'm going to test this out a little bit and let you know my results with that as far as how heat proof we will see. And again, keep in mind, this is something you can just throw in the wash and the dryer. I wouldn't do high heat because cotton will shrink. So it may get smaller as time goes by. Little loop. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that was super helpful. And I will be back tomorrow at some point after I have tested this out. All right, just a little side note to kind of wrap things up for you guys. I had meant to bring my gooseneck stand down here so you guys could kind of get a better view of what's happening in here, but I left it upstairs. And about 10 minutes ago, I pulled my back out. So going up and down the stairs is a struggle. So I'm trying to just be impressive and finish this video anyway. So I'm going to show you what I have going on here. So these are the croissants I took out of the oven earlier. And I used my glove. I used my my mitt, my oven mitt. And I think at some point in the video I shared with you guys that I would share my oven mitts. This one's super cute. It says, "I'm beautiful and I eat a lot." I have a feeling it's going to show up backwards. Why is that? And then the other one, I hope no one is feeling fragile. I'm going to try to show you. Bitch, I am the secret ingredient. Is that not cute? Oh gosh, that hurts to stretch. So these are super cute. I found them at a, look around. I found them at a local store where I also purchased my handmade soaps and things. And I was like, they're cute. I need new oven mitts. But anyway, so I did test this out because I wanted to actually try it and see how heat resistant it would be and if it would be okay. So once I did take my little croissants from Trader Joe's out of the oven. Let me flip this around. Sorry guys. It's gonna be a wonky part of the video because I'm trying to play through the pain, you know. Anyway, so I took these out of the oven. It's cooled off now, obviously, but as soon as I did, I just took my little oven mitt and wrapped it around and held it for a moment, just for a little while, to see how quickly the heat would come through, if the heat would come through, if it would, you know, do anything weird to the material. And it was great. I didn't feel the heat. I held it there for a good long time. So, hello again. So I would say if you're going to use one of these, if you're using this yarn, the cotton, the sugar and cream yarn, if you're using some other kind of cotton yarn, I would do that. I would do that to test it out first and kind of see if it's going to be heat resistant versus just kind of going straight into the oven, you know, 400-degree oven. This is a pizza stone that I use to cook everything on basically and bake everything on. So it gets very hot. Sorry, my back. So yeah, but I did want to share that. And just to wrap the video up, I guess I'm going to go sit down on the couch with an ice pack on, edit this video, and get it posted so that I can at least feel like I've done something productive today, because I don't think anything else productive is going to happen today. So that was a very weird side note, very weird way to end this video. But if you guys enjoyed the tutorial, let's get back to the crafting. If you guys enjoyed the tutorial and you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you have anything you'd like to see me try to create, I am happy to give it a go. Sometimes I can't always come up with a great idea, but oftentimes I do. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will